tonight. We have some of our elected officials and a few extra JPs. Mr. Nichols, we've not met personally. I'm Michael White, Chairman of the Finance Committee here on the Forum Court. To my right here, we have Dr. Reggie Cullom, Mr. Neil Burge, our local attorney Jacob Holmes, County Judge John Allen Nelson, coming around to Jeremy Thomas, and then Ms. Harbans Mangat, also a county Justice of the Peace.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, sir. We had started a process a couple, 3 months ago about trying to give our county employees some relief on their unpaid 2019 insurance health claims to the providers. It's caused great hardship on several of our employees, some to the point of having to file bankruptcy, others to the point of compromising continued health care with the providers they own, and then even with other providers. I understand that the legal process takes some time, but we have 200 employees that we kind of left hung out to dry, we feel like. The claims that we are aware of total nearly $660,000. And we're to the point as a county government that we want to do everything we can to give these employees and the providers some form of relief. I mean, to the point we're really ready to kind of commit to do what we have to get those bills paid and still continue the litigation process. With that said, I think the county judge has a little something that he'd like to
Yes,
present
thank
or
you,
say.
Justice White, and we're glad you're here, Mr. Nichols, and appreciate you coming, and Jeremy.
Sure.
What I'd like to do is conduct this meeting, hopefully it won't run over an hour, that's our goal. And we'll put it in two parts, and the first part would be, I'd like to get Jeremy to give us an update on exactly how the arbitration is coming, as far as where we're gonna meet again, what's the time frame, anything that he expects, anything that he's found out that's good or bad, and then when we get to that point, then we'll go into the second half of the meeting, which will be targeted at the mechanics of how we're gonna get the employees' claims taken care of momentarily. So, Jeremy, would you give us a roundabout way about where exactly we are with the arbitration process?
Yeah, and Dave can feel free to expound because he's been more personally involved.
Oh, absolutely.
He's chief counsel on all this, and so, recently, taken some depositions of some key players, one of which is a very key player for the insurance company. And anyway, believe those went very well. Mr. Nichols reported that they went very well. Then we're actually in the process of trying to schedule a mediation, which be early to mid-September. So we're just talking, a month or so away. I believe the date of September 7th has been discussed, the date of September 16th has been discussed.
And both of those are, on the books with the mediator, and the 7th is gonna work for everybody.
Okay. So September 7th,
We'll
we're
get
looking
that
at
confirmation today.
mediating this and trying to hopefully reach some sort of agreement, and we'll just have to see how that unfolds, but, there've been depositions taken where there just have been discovery, there's been a lot of documents, produced by both sides, more from the insurance company than what we've had to produce, but, gotten volumes and volumes of documents from the insurance company and just moving toward, if it doesn't sell the mediation, is the hearing set for January, is that correct, or is it February?
February, for the hearing,
Yes, sir.
the arbitration version of the trial is in February.
And so if worse comes to worse, we will have an arbitration in February, and the arbitration panel's decision on that is non-appealable, so we will have a decision after that date, and it will be over because the arbitration is not it's not a court proceeding and it's not appealable, and it will be over one way or the other after that. So that's where we are procedurally.
Do you have anything to add, Mr. Nichols?
I would just add that the additional key depositions are for August 23rd and 4th. That would be the brokers that were involved. And, the brokers were, facilitating information between Mississippi County and other parties involved, including TPA and also, the insurance company. I think those are, set for, they're gonna be by Zoom. Les Smith will be deposed on the 23rd, and then Michelle Gill on the 24th. And the mediation is set up. The mediator is already wanting to make phone calls, preliminary calls. He's actually been involved with this before. This started out as a case in federal court. And so he's familiar with the case, and he understands the players and the challenge he has. I shouldn't get into numbers, but I would say, there's realistic hope that, there could be a resolution in early September.
Does anyone have any questions?
What would that resolution involve? Would that be can you explain what you're looking for and what we were hoping for in that resolution, Mr. Nichols?
The resolution is gonna involve, the insurance company proposing that they pay a certain percentage of the claims, and that's, gonna happen. It's just a matter of, is it a high enough percentage where, Mississippi County would say, that's enough to, if we can get that money now, and it's enough to, cover the claims or close, then is it worth it to do this instead of wait another 6 months for the full-blown hearing? I think it'd probably be a good idea to have some discussion before the actual mediation in terms of like a range of, what would be acceptable to the county, just so that, when we're at the mediation, if something is proposed, I understand, you can't just agree to that, make one phone call. There needs to be a quorum vote if there would be a proposal, I believe. Is that
Correct.
Is that accurate? Okay. So, yeah, I would just suggest to do that in advance. And part of that decision can come with our help in terms of what do we think can be done with the claims in terms of, what would it take, 658 or whatever it is, or, would it take, maybe 90% of that or 85% of that? And I think I have the spreadsheet, from the kind of the work product where it was left off by different employees trying to make phone calls. I would like to be able to discuss, like what the notes mean and, what kind of feedback we're getting. Just try to size up, what's realistic in terms of, what it would actually take to cover all the claims. And that would help to know that, going into the mediation on the 6th, so.
How many other litigants are involved besides Mississippi County?
There are 8 health plans, 7 counties, and then one other group that's, Synod VHR. And then there is the stop-loss insurance carrier, who's Gerber Life, who's, financially responsible, but their managing general underwriter is also a party, because all information flowed through the managing general underwriter. And we're finding out with these depositions, but we're not positive as to what all they were relaying and, what part of this problem was created by, the MDU versus the insurance carrier itself. And I would just say that, well, actually, probably what I should do is just provide copies of transcripts instead of trying to, give my opinion about what I felt is, my opinion about the testimony. I think if I just provided the copies of transcripts, that would probably be, appropriate in terms of if counsel for Mississippi County wanted to, evaluate what they think of that and, you know, how strong the case is based on that. And that would include my client, Todd Houston, who's the owner of the TPA. He was deposed as well. And, you know, like, I thought they all went really well, favorably to us, but obviously I guess I'm biased, but I think I'm objective. I felt really well, really good about the whole 3 days. We were in Philadelphia. Depositions there's 4 of them. The 2 key people at the MGU, and then the key person at Gerber Life Insurance, and then Todd Houston were all deposed.
Any other questions?
I have a question, and I don't understand what comes first. Can we negotiate as a court to pay a percentage of these bills, or do we have to wait until you negotiate with Gerber as to what percentage they're gonna pay?
We don't have to wait, and if there is the option of advancing the funding to cover the claims to help out the employees, then no need to wait, and it shouldn't affect the impact on what Gerber and you and me would owe, because if the claims are paid by the county that should have been paid by the insurance carrier, then that doesn't impact the claim itself. The county would then be reimbursed from either the settlement or if it ends up going to a hearing from the judgment from the hearing.
Well, if we were to negotiate a 60% or 65% of outstanding balance, does that let Gerber off the hook for no more than 60 or 65% of the reimbursement we're out?
Maybe, maybe not. I mean, there's other variables, and it's, you know, the claim itself that's penned is not just the claims. I mean, this has had a ripple effect, negative effect beyond just the claims at this point. So maybe not would be my answer to that.
I mean, we could, I mean, as far as settling the case, maybe we could say, if we paid out X number of dollars, we expect to get, say, 60% of what we paid out back from Gerber, or, you know what I mean? I mean, that's, you do anything with a settlement, but with a.
It kills me that Gerber gets off and we get punished.
Agreed.
Personally, I'm not a lawyer, but, you know, for us to pay, negotiate, settle, and then Gerber settle for less than we paid out. I'm not an attorney, but that stinks, you know, but I'm here to get relief for these employees, folks. We've been at this 2 years, and some of these people, I mean, you think about $14, $15, $16 an hour employees, and they get hit with a $17,000, $20,000 bill. It's insurmountable, and these kids have been riding this for 2 years and a half. So I'll go back to my question, can we, as a county, negotiate a settlement and hope to get at least our money back from Gerber, or is that an unfair question?
I would be getting money back, whatever would be paid by the county. The county would really not be in a different position whether the claims are paid or not in terms of what would be owed by you and me and Gerber. That they would argue that if you actually were able to settle all the claims for, let's say, 70%, they'll argue that that's all they should be responsible for.
Okay.
Whether that agreement is successful or not is, you know, it's not that simple. I'll just put it that way.
Well, what would you recommend from our standpoint as a court that we offer them? What percentage of the outstanding bill is realistic?
I would just offer, you know, an amount that if they accepted, you know, it'd be an easy decision. And just, you know, we've been through this at the TV more from a situation where there's actually something wrong with the service, or the coding was wrong, or whatever. But we called out, I've been involved, and we had people at performance that are involved with calling up to talk to providers. Kathy O'Leary, who helped me with this, that's half of her job. And she's actually has a list of all providers that she's had, previous contacts with. She did check with respect to the providers on the list with Mississippi County. She did indicate to me there's a couple of names on there that she's talked to before, and felt that, that she'll call up and just, from prior dealings, that's, doesn't hurt, but it would be, to answer that question, we really just have to start making the calls to get a feel for, what would be acceptable. And these claims are so old, and I mean, I would imagine a lot of providers would be, if we said, for example, we have an opportunity to resolve this case, but this is what the proposal's being, we think is gonna be, if it is that amount, would you accept it? I think some would say, absolutely, they'd rather, they're sick of waiting, and they'd rather get, 60, 70 cents on the dollar than waiting longer and possibly never get that money. Others, I think, will just be very dug in, we waited all this time, we're not gonna, budge one penny. I think that's kind of the reaction that, the employees that were making calls from Mississippi, I think they were getting a mixed reaction. Is that true?
Well, there's a list of claims that the primary insurance carrier has that says claim approved, payment pending. Now,
Yes.
that's important because that means the insurance company has said, like you're talking about, the CPT codes and things like that, have fit what the claim needs to be, and we have a stack of those. And the insurance company, after saying that this claim has been approved, it's in the process, then I would, again, I'm a layman, then there's nothing wrong with the coding, they just haven't paid the money. And that's not an error, sir?
Is that what the green coding is on that spreadsheet? Is that, the highlighted green? No?
That's actually was done by the treasurer and finance department's office as they were making those calls. You can kind of look out to the right there in the far right column, and the comments are in the same color as the color of the figure, and you can kind of tell what those mean. But I requested and got that from the treasurer today and sent it to you, and so she's here, and she can, if you need to talk to her directly at some point to find out exactly what all that means, she's
That'd
available.
be good, just, within the next couple days, would be
Sure.
great to have that.
Any other questions?
Yes, I have one. If we settle these and we actually pay someone to negotiate this, because we obviously don't have staff that can do all of this, can we also get reimbursed for having to pay out that money to do their job?
Mr. Nichols, did you hear the question? If
I
we have expenses on, settling the debts on our end, can we recoup those expenses?
yes, absolutely.
Yeah, for instance, he's talking about whoever we contract to make those phone calls, can we recoup whatever is paid to those guys? That was the specific.
Yes.
Any
Yeah,
other?
I think there would not be any charges if there wasn't any reduction, so, and if there's charges, whatever that would be, it would, recoup from insurance company just as if the claim would be, because it's a cost of getting the claim covered.
Any other questions? Did that answer you,
It
Justice
did.
Saxon?
Then here's the separate question.
Okay.
I was under the impression, and he represents Performance Health, is my understanding. So the question is, we asked could Performance Health not go ahead and negotiate these claims, because we've already paid them for the insurance. Could they not negotiate these claims and we reimburse them, and then with the Gerber Life reimburses, we get our money back?
I'm not sure, I'm not trying to understand that question, let me make clear. I apologize.
Okay. We've already paid Performance Health to do our insurance for 2019. These claims are owed by basically Gerber. Will Performance Health do this negotiation with the parties that are owed money? We pay for that, and then when this is settled, the county be reimbursed.
And this is where, like, I don't have a specific, number, but I know I talked to the owner of Performance Health, and, we just wanna help get these claims taken care of. If there needs to be, help from the, side vendor that gets paid as they go, and there's an expense related to that, like, if anything, that would be the only thing that Performance Health would request, and that's only if there's success, so, the amount of the claims that are owed, if there's not a discount on it, but Performance Health can help, get the claims paid, because it's in our system, like, all these claims are in the system, and they go on Excel spreadsheets, and that information can be, organized in any way, and we, like I said, there may be contacts, from before, so it's just a lot easier for us to be able to handle this, even if it was simply just, get the claims paid, and we're just set up to do that very easily. It's still in our system. If there would be, I'll throw out a, like, if all the claims could be resolved and it took, $550,000, I think, my understanding is, if in that situation, there may be at least not a, like, I guess just a discussion about should there be some compensation to cover Performance Health's cost in doing this, and I don't know how labor intensive it would be. Like I said, we'll know that a lot more when we, I think, assess the claims and how spread out are they, and, and for example, there's one group that's in this litigation, the outstanding claims, 3 providers make up 60–70% of the overall claims. That's an easy task to handle, because you're just talking to 3 providers. Mississippi seems to be a lot further spread out than that. So, I would say that, I would like to have a follow-up conversation with the owner of Performance Health about that issue. But if there's gonna be charges, they're gonna be, a request for payment for anything. It's gonna be based on success, and it's gonna be a substantial reduction from what, normally occurs. And I think I guess I would like to just point this out, this litigation, which has been going on for a year and a half, has been incredibly time consuming. My office has probably, looked at 40,000 documents produced by you and me. And the owner of Performance Health has not once said, can you ask Mississippi to help cover, everything I'm paying your firm, and, Craig Byler is also counseled it, so that's not, that's like way low on the priority list, I'll just say that. I still have this, like, authority right now to say, it'd be 0 or 5% of reductions or anything like that.
Okay, but the only money that Performance would receive would be a percentage of what we reduce the bills by. We would not be paying them additional monies.
Correct, and if there's no reductions at all, there'd be 0 charges.
But then we would when we go to arbitration, we would should be able to get enough money to cover whatever they pay plus whatever percentage that they got.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, if that satisfies everybody with this part of the arbitration, schedule and what the plans are to proceed in the future, let's go ahead and go to our second part of the meeting, and that's the, exactly how, the mechanics are gonna be, gone about by, settling the employee's outstanding claims. So, what I've done is worked up a scenario that we can talk about, it'll give us some place to start. We'll pass those down. This is just an outline of how that may work. You know, there's two ways that I can think that we could go about it. We could send, the people that we're contracting with the $667,000 and have them expend the money and then give us a report, which is something that I don't suggest. This way is another way to go about it. It's where we, actually cut the check in-house in here in Mississippi County after receiving the information from the, contractor that's gonna go about, settling the debts. Did everybody get a copy? If you'll see that first one, point there, and there's only 9. The first one just states that, the representative of Performance Health is going to communicate with the healthcare providers. And it goes on to state, I think, if everybody's aware of this, that they'll negotiate the settlement, for each individual employee not to exceed the August 12th balance. Number 2 is the Mississippi County Finance Department will communicate directly with the representatives of Performance Health for the purpose of satisfying the unpaid employee claims not to exceed the August 12th balance. And the aggregate of the negotiated balance shall not exceed the appropriation fund established for that purpose. And that's what we have just addressed earlier this week. And those parameters were just set there so that we make sure that we don't get off key. We can keep everything reconciled. We know it's not gonna go beyond this number, and we're going to expect that it's gonna be less than that number. And then number 3 is Performance Health will provide a report to Mississippi County Finance Department that lists each employee's name, social security number, the August 12th balance, the account, or tracking number, the health care provider name, the healthcare provider address, and a formatted Microsoft Excel compatible comma separated values data file. That way we can just go ahead and roll it into an Excel spreadsheet. The August 12th balance in aggregate shall not exceed the appropriation fund has been established for that purpose. Just reiterating that. That way we can have virtually the same data that the vendor or the contractor has in negotiating it, and we can reconcile on a regular basis, and that way we'll always know where we are, and there won't be any surprises at the end. The accounting attorney will prepare a statement of release that will be incorporated as part of the record and shall be completed with each settlement. Number 5 is the Performance Health will contact each of the healthcare providers on behalf of the county employee to arrange for the payment/settlement to be made, but no payment settlement will be made to exceed the August 12th balance. And number 6 is if and when the negotiated balance is less than, and keep in mind there's footnotes at the bottom here that'll act as a glossary that'll define each term. That if the negotiated balance is less than the August 12th balance, Performance Health will receive a percentage of the difference from Mississippi County as payment for services rendered in the settlement. The county savings will be left in the appropriation fund until all accounts are settled. When all accounts have been settled, the remaining funds will be returned to the CD from which the funds originated. So that's what, amount is gonna be in excess of what we have appropriated. And I only spell it out that way, so that we'll know where we're at that way, because normally the funds will be returned from where the source that we received. Number 7 is the county employees that made payments to their healthcare provider that should have been covered under the policy will be reimbursed from the appropriation fund upon filing proof of payment with the finance department. That takes care of the individuals that went ahead and settled theirs, so that they wouldn't have their credit messed up. Payments will be issued to healthcare providers payments will not be issued to healthcare providers until a completed statement of release is filed with Mississippi County Finance Department. A completed statement of release includes a signature from the Performance Health representative that negotiated the settlement, acknowledging the payment has not exceeded the negotiated balance, the signature of the authorized agent of the healthcare provider accepting the negotiated payment amount, and the initials of the Mississippi County Finance Department employee indicating that the statement is complete and correct as far as they are aware, and that the county judge's signature authorizing check to be prepared and mailed. And then the last paragraph here is that prior to reimbursement payments being issued to county employees, proof of payment must be filed with the Mississippi County Finance Department. Upon receiving proof of payment, the Mississippi County Finance Department will send the signed letter to the judge indicating the proof of payment has been filed, confirming the amount to be reimbursed. Upon receipt of the signed letter, the county judge will also sign the letter authorizing the check to be prepared. Now, as I go back over this again, I don't know if I included, that they'll also be released, signed by the employee, just as it was signed by the healthcare provider. Tom, did I repeat that, correctly as you and I have worked on this?
It seems like from my, I don't have it in front of me, but it seems like yes.
Has anyone got any questions? Like I said, this is an alternative to sending the entire balance to a contractor that's going to spend our money for us. I thought that this might be a more reasonable way to keep in reconciliation all the time. There's also one more I should have added, that the finance department will take these reports that they've completed or that they've added to once a week and send it to each one court member, so that they'll know two things. One is what percentage of that money that we've appropriated has been expended and settled, and the number of employees that, the percentage of the number of employees that have been settled. That way, with those two numbers, I think it'll give you a pretty good idea on where we're sitting. And we can add to that, or we can take it away from this, but it'd be a start on making the settlements, and it gives us a little bit quicker.
So basically, we're gonna ask Performance Health to do the negotiation and come up with the dollar amount, and then we'll pay direct from here.
And also collect the information, we need the release signed, if Performance Health will do that from the healthcare provider. We'll need them to sign it. We'll need the representative of Performance Health to also sign it to say everything is true and correct up to this point, and then send that to, back here to our county. Finance will review it and initial it, that, their belief is that everything is true and correct, and along the path that we have outlined here. It'll go to the county judge, and the judge's signature will also go back over, that's 4 sets of eyes, and then sign off to have, the disbursement made.
Have you had a chance to talk to Performance Health or Mr. Nichols about this?
I spoke
I
with
talked to
Jeremy
him earlier.
briefly.
My understanding is that that is doable, that Performance Health can negotiate these and send periodic reports, maybe weekly reports on what claims have been negotiated and you know, what claims should be paid for the finance department to then process.
Okay.
And so I think that is doable from speaking with Mr. Nichols earlier. And as far as the release goes that would need to be signed, they've already got a document that they use that we could, whatever Jake can put together, maybe we could, you know, put the two together and come up with a document that'll work for everybody. So I think it's very doable from speaking with Mr. Nichols earlier.
And we also, put an example spreadsheet on the last page, just to give you an idea. That way we'll know, there'll be, basically, we got 3 values right there. 2 of them are going out as disbursements. One to the healthcare provider, one possibly to Performance Health as compensation for their work here, which will be below the August 12th balance. And then the remainder, which is gonna stay in that appropriated fund until it's exhausted and this is all over, and then we can return that back to the CD.
To me, it looks like a good plan. Mr. Nichols, does it look good from Performance Health standpoint?
It does, and the question I had is, it sounds like this would be pretty streamlined, and I think, the important aspect of this is, if there is a provider that's, you know, saying, okay, we'll agree to this, sometimes it's, the timing of it's really important, and they'll say, would we be able to get a check within, you know, 10 days or, 7 days or something like that, which could impact their decision?
I think we could actually do it in 7 days.
Okay. All right, and the form that we have that Jerry mentioned, I could just email it to you tomorrow, Jeremy?
Sure.
It's got the, all the language in it that would basically cover, everything, and I think when the claim is processed, if it's processed through our system, it also helps if we would track that as a backup in our system. So if you ever had a report of just, you know, confirming what all has been paid or not, we would also be tracking that on our end. And my understanding is that if we're just communicating to Mississippi to direct funds to this provider, that won't cause any delay on.
No,
As
no.
opposed, add the funds at performance, it'll be the same difference.
Yeah, no, I believe it'll be a very speedy process. Is there
Okay.
any questions from the finance committee?
How quick can we implement this? How quick can we get started? And this September 7th meeting that you're talking about, does that impact what we're talking about?
No, it impacts it indirectly because I think by then we'll have a feel for like, you know, what amount of money will it actually take to cover these claims, which might impact the decision if an offer's made. And I would say we could start next week with, we've already started in anticipation of this meeting, kind of, putting the information together, and like I said, looking to see if we've had any contacts with any providers, and then grouping there's, so I would say we'll get a good jump on this next week. And if there's any providers, like local, that, there's anything we should know, you know, let's know that.
We got one sitting here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
We have a physician here that's on our form course, Justice Cullom.
Well, my question is, where do you start with your negotiation percentage? You know, what do you think is reasonable?
The number?
Yes,
I think 50, is to, like, I guess, see what the reaction is. That's probably not realistic in resolving it. And I think if it depends on the provider. If it's a larger provider and, they, you know, they can absorb that write-off better, that helps. But I would say 50%, you know, with a target of more realistically like 70.
that's a figure that generally goes along in the short number of years I've been doing this, that's what we generally end up with, is a 60% negotiated sum. And if we
Okay.
pay, you know, if we pay 10%, or whatever the percentage is for performance, then we've still saved money and we have bailed our employees out. That's the main reason is let's do something to bail these kids out. ASAP.
Okay.
Any other questions that we?
I mean, a big picture strategy, it makes sense to like, if we're all, we can organize them by tax ID number. And if you pull all the claims for one tax ID number, and they'll be then in order of the largest to smallest, it certainly makes sense to start focusing on the larger providers, because, you know, a 30% discount with a large provider is a much more helpful and you know, a sole practitioner that's got a bill for $100, right? So, it makes sense to start with the largest providers.
Ms. Smith, you are gonna be a part of this. Do you have any questions? Did anything come to mind?
Well, might have to have an extra person. I mean, no, I don't know, I mean, we're just trying to see, as you know, I mean, we're having a lot of extra stuff to take care of now with the ARP funds and now this, I mean, this is.
And we're also in the middle of an audit, so.
We'll do what we need to do to make it
Okay,
work.
we'll do what we need to do to make sure that goes. And I don't think that it's gonna be anything that's gonna require any specific knowledge. I think all this is gonna take place through emails, and once the person grasps the idea that's going on, we're not be handling a whole lot, you know. I wouldn't anticipate in one particular day, and so,
I wondered if we wouldn't need at least some temporary part-time help or something, whatever it takes.
okay, we'll make sure that that happens then.
We'll have to just try and see, what did you say about the quorum court, letting them know, Rick and I were just discussing that.
My question was, like, could they give us a daily so that whatever they got, performance gets that day, they can work on checks the next day? And then, instead of giving us a weekly report, it's gonna show up in our regular,
Monthly finance.
monthly finance. Would it not be acceptable to take that, not add the additional of them having to print another report and email to all of us?
Well, they're going to, we're gonna have a spreadsheet that's gonna be, you know, up to date every time, that we receive an email from performance, so I'm thinking that, you know, just one day a week, you just take that and send it to all the quorum court members. That way, we won't be in the dark any at all, and everybody will know exactly how that we're proceeding.
In other words, they'll have this
This will be live.
will be what they'll be paying off of, basically.
That's correct.
And then they'll just turn around and have to email it to the 11 of us.
That's right, that's just one button and it goes out.
But we're still typically, I mean, we're just gonna do the checks once a week. I mean,
Once a week, I think would be fine. Mr. Nichols was talking about, you know, 10 days or less, and so we typically write checks one day a week, so we can just hold those and it'll go in the batch with everything else.
Okay.
What about the social security numbers on it? We don't need that, do we?
Well, the only reason that I added that is so that we know that we're talking about, it'll be another method to make sure that this is the person that we're talking about.
She's talking about
Just
sending
maybe
them
the
last
out to
four
all of
numbers
us.
or
We'll need to
something.
redact.
Oh, yeah, well, no, we'll redact the social security numbers,
Okay.
yeah.
You don't have to print every field off of
No,
Excel
no,
sheets.
no, that's correct. No, that is only gonna be for the person that is in the finance department that says, yes, that is that person that we're talking about.
Sounds like a great plan. Good progress, Judge.
And I think maybe the only other unknown that we have here, and we don't have to do that tonight unless you want to, is find out what percentage of the reduction. And then that way we'll know that it's gonna be the same percentage of the reduction each time.
Let's discuss it while we got three attorneys with us.
All right, Mr. Nichols, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I just don't, wanna speak for the owner, who's gonna be, you know, paying people to do this, that's all. I can find out and let someone know tomorrow, if that'd be okay.
That'd be fine, and I think that,
The normal charge is, a percent of only the savings. The normal charge is 25%, which is what their stop-loss contracts include that, it's kind of standard ministry. I think it's gonna be, you know, like, I'm thinking it's gonna be like 10% is what I believe, the owner before himself, you know, had in mind, which is basically would cover, the labor for doing this. That's a rough number, but if that number was acceptable, I think that, I could confirm that tomorrow.
okay, all right, yeah, if you'll do that tomorrow, then that'll speed the process up, and I think it is important that it'll be the same
Okay.
percentage with each one.
There's got to.
Yeah, And then, do we need, and I don't wanna delay this, and that's why we're having this meeting tonight, is try to expedite this process and get the employees taken care of right now. Is it necessary to draw a contract over this engagement?
Does Performance Health have a standard contract with, who's actually gonna be doing this?
Yes, I believe they do.
And if it's,
I've never seen it, but I believe it. If not, we can draw up one.
just thinking it could be something along the lines of what you normally do between Performance Health and the subcontractor.
And of course, we're gonna be holding the money all the time anyway.
Sure.
But, you know, if there's something that I'm missing and we need to draw something up.
But if we could, if I could talk to you about that tomorrow, about a specific agreement on once we get to a percentage, obviously.
I think we can go then. Yeah, if y'all would talk tomorrow and then let the county know, then I think then we're good to go.
But weren't you referring to the minimum number that we'll accept that Mr. Nichols needs to know?
Well, I mean, I'm thinking that probably not, you don't want all the doctor's offices, and you definitely don't want the insurance company to know what percentage we're thinking. You see what I'm saying?
But I thought Mr. Nichols wanted some kind of guideline from us as, do you, Mr. Nichols?
I don't need that tonight.
Yeah, let's
Okay.
just let him,
Okay.
or get that lined out, then we'll get that information from, Mr. Thomas tomorrow.
Okay, good.
Any other questions or comments on the,
I'm tickled.
Mr. Nichols, we appreciate you taking time out this afternoon to meet with us.
I appreciate you too. I'm really glad to have joined you, and nice to meet y'all, and, I'm very much looking forward to getting this all behind.
We are too.
Amen.
All right, well, we will, if there's no more questions from Mr. Nichols, then we'll let you go, and thank you again, and we'll look forward to hearing from Mr. Thomas tomorrow after you two meet.
Okay, have a good evening.
Thanks,
Okay.
Dave.
So, where are we now?
I think we're ready to go. I think, Jeremy calls tomorrow, or
Whatever.
emails,
Whatever I get agreements, I'll send to Jake, so.
and then Jacob will look over it, Jacob will get it to me. Do we need to do anything, formally to get, the finance department more help?
Peggy, do you wanna think about it, you wanna come to us now, or you wanna think about it and come to us later, or you just wanna see how involved it gets?
Yeah, well, let me just think about it and maybe, read this again and see how involved, we think it will be. Maybe just a way to see how involved it will be.
I think the way, in my mind, once you get an email from them, let's just say there's two that comes in the same day, you just make sure that that it contains two signatures, and, the paperwork's there, you just drop it in the file, and,
Does anybody have an idea how long this process might take to get these payments made
I
out?
don't think it'll take long at all.
6 weeks, 8
Oh,
weeks?
I would think in 6 weeks, I mean,
I would think in
30
4
days to
weeks
6
you
weeks, I would think.
I
These
think 30
people ought to be
days.
ready to do something.
I think they're, this is 2 years old,
Oh, that's.
2.5.
2.5, I don't think it'll be a long process, I don't think anybody's gonna drag their feet.
One clear, one thing, he did talk about 10% for performance sales, right?
Yes.
Somebody said, something in there said 25%.
Well, it was somewhere
Uh,
between
sure.
those, he said both numbers, he said,
The
Yeah.
standard is 25, but he thinks the owner
Well,
would
settle
agree
for
with
10.
10.
Okay.
But do we,
25% is tough for
It-
us.
do we
considering how
need
it's
to
already been
agree,
done.
what is the minimum percentage? Do we need to vote? or-
That's what I was talking about,
on What's the minimum
percentage that
percentage we would accept?
I think maybe you wanna address that.
If let's just get a number from him. If it's, I'd say if it's 10, I think we're already there, right?
Correct.
And so,
I agree.
Why don't we wait and get the number?
if that's what I hear tomorrow, then we're good to go.
Keep in mind, guys, I won't be here Monday, but the finance committee will meet Monday. And, Molly will be here, and if you need to address more of this Monday, then that's just, tomorrow's Friday, so it'll be pretty quickly addressed. Peggy, do you have a contract labor line in your budget?
No,
But what Jeremy's talking about is, performance health, 10%.
That's correct, but what you're talking about is, are we gonna
What is
set
our-
for 70% or 60%?
What's our minimum that will go?
Well,
We need to
keep
know
in
what
mind
that
though,
is.
we've got an absolute top number, which is the appropriated or the appropriated fund,
Mhm.
which we had expect to spend on it. That is the absolute most it could go. So anything below that is a win for Mississippi County.
Yeah, when he started though, we were talking, he said that they'd start at 50%. Dr. Cullom says 60% is kind of normal. He said it could be as high as 70%. And so what I was asking, and what Neil, I think, is also asking, are we willing to accept 70? Are we willing to accept 80? If they offer, they'll pay 80%, are we willing to accept that? Is that your question?
Well, I'm not worried so much about the high side, what's the minimum that we would be willing to accept? If he came back and said, okay, they're willing to do it, for 40%, and we're gonna take our 10, then you're gonna have 30 left.
That's right.
So what's the
And I
minimum
think-
we would be willing to?
And I'm thinking that we really just want out of the trap at
Well,
this
there's two
point.
percentages we're talking about, we're talking two different percentages, cause there's a percentage of what the medical providers will go down on their bills, and there's a percentage of what the insurance company will pay on claims in the arbitration process. There's two different things we're talking, and so, obviously, we wanna be on the low end of what the medical providers will accept and what we'll pay. And we wanna be on the high end with the insurance company on what we'll accept from them, so, I think for right now, which the
The
worry
main
we
thing-
have right now is getting these claims paid.
I think the main thing is to get the claims taken care of.
Then we can talk
We've
about
already-
the arbitration process and like what to expect in the mediation. I don't, you have to be careful when you talk about lawsuits and, because the insurance company, if they want copies of these meeting minutes, they can get copies of these meeting minutes. And so if we talk too much about what we're willing to accept from the insurance company, they'll know our discussions, and that is attorney-client privilege, and it is work product privilege, and that's not something that needs to be discussed in a public meeting. You know what I'm saying?
But we do wanna leave the, $660,000 appropriation for next, regular quorum court meeting, we wanna leave it on the docket.
That's correct.
Yes.
And we will be the only one that has access to that fund.
Yeah. I'm good.
And I heard 2 or 3 things. How soon do you think maybe that the claims will start coming in? Or the request for payments will start coming
What are they
in?
doing, there's a September date.
Couple of weeks?
No negotiation.
He's talking about if we can get something worked out
On
in the
September.
ground running next week sometime, so.
It's possible
It
next week.
sounds like,
Okay, so,
it's just my
and
opinion.
our county
It
general
sounds like
balance,
Foreman's
it's been
and Herbert
averaging
are gonna get one
lately,
more shot at trying to get together, and
like
then it's going to
300,000.
arbitration.
Yeah.
That's what
Then it goes to the hearing in
500,000
February.
today,
The
but
first
that's what we
meeting
just
is
put in taxes.
their last
So,
shot at trying to get
so-
it.
They might could agree to 60%.
I know where you're going. If we have to cash a CD in to supplement our balance, that's not gonna be a problem.
One question the money's not been appropriated at this point, right, to fund this?
Some of the money has been,
But not all of it.
but not all of it.
Probably will.
Is it the 200,000 been appropriated?
That's correct.
That'll get started, sure,
Yeah.
yes, okay.
But see, it's just been appropriated, it's just a number on an account.
Right.
The money's not really there.
But-
Peggy was asking
I
about
think,
the
I think
the cash flow.
Okay, so I've already looked, and our county general, the first county general that's coming due is, the first one due is October. I mean, we can get it out earlier than that if we need to. It's $500 and something thousand.
Well, what are we getting percentage wise for?
This one is 2.54%.
2.54.
Well,
If that penalizes it,
well, wait a minute, it probably got
2.54 is
some.
a heck of an interest it is nowadays.
I'm sorry, that's what it started out at, excuse me. It dropped from a little bit. It's on a 0.55 now, sorry.
0.55.
Yes.
It would not hurt to dissolve it. but it's-
No, and I mean, he may not charge us a penalty if we got it out tomorrow. I just wanna know,
she's asking, is it gonna, we
Do I
may
need
not
to
have
get it
enough
out?
cash in county general right now.
We'll cash it if we need
we'll catch it.
At 0.55 is still.
Yeah,
I mean, do you
we
think
don't
we
wanna
need to
delay
do-
payments.
No, no,
Over pennies.
that's right.
Harbans has a question for Jeremy here. Explain, explain what you were asking me.
So, just a question is, so if we, let's say that we settle at a certain percentage, just throwing a number out there at 60, but then, or 70%, but they, when it goes to arbitration and they got it at a lower, even, would they reimburse that? Does that need to be in here? Like,
Wait.
whatever the difference, if they got it, you know what I'm saying? Like,
You mean
does
with
it
the
have to
doctor,
be in
if we settle at with the percentage with the doctors, and the doctors say we'll take half the 50% of the claim? Is that what you mean? And then what happens at the arbitration if the doctors agree to take 50% of the claim?
Are you talking about the arbitration?
Yeah.
If you're talking about the mediation, anything can happen because it's a negotiated thing. I mean, that is a,
Right.
that'll
but
be
if they-
we can negotiate whatever we want, and if it's not something it's acceptable to us, we just don't have to settle for it. What the arbitrators are gonna do is like saying, what would a judge do, and who knows what a judge is gonna do with it.
I think she's saying if
No,
we
I'm
pay
thinking,
1%, but they settle for a higher percent, will we get the money, and does that need to be in the contract?
You're right.
You mean,
We settled for 60, and
Okay,
they
so-
give us 70. is what you're
yeah,
saying.
so if the doctors say they'll take 50, Gerber says they'll pay 70, what happens to the other 20%?
Exactly, that's what
So
she's
that
asking,
goes in
should
our-
that be in the contract?
So that goes in our pockets, no.
No, but it's saying, they need to pay that back to us, so should it be in our contract saying that, hey, you need to pay that back to us? If we, let's say if we give performance health,
Well, the money's not gonna be paid to performance sales, it's gonna be paid to us. I mean, the settlement money's not gonna go through them.
okay.
It's gonna go to
Okay.
us.
Yeah, it'll
Okay.
be,
It'll
that's
come directly to
really
us,
an
they won't even-
entirely
okay.
different issue.
Yeah,
They won't even know that we made any extra money on
Gotcha.
it.
That's right.
I mean, they'll know the figures, but
That's why I wanna kinda
Okay.
set the meeting in two different hats, because one really doesn't have anything to do with the other.
Jeremy,
That makes
if
sense.
I understand right, going all the way back, the arbitration is basically over whether Gerber breached their contract or not, by
Yeah.
lowering that percentage. There is a possibility the arbitrator could come back and say, you owe all of it.
they could definitely say you all of it, but, I
Not
mean,
likely.
what Gerber did, in my mind, is, it'd be like changing your deductible in the middle of your car insurance contract. They said, well, I know we agreed on a, $1,000 deductible, but we decided it's gonna be $5.
After we've ever signed the contract and it's
Yeah.
binding.
Right.
Well, I'm
So-
concerned they'll leave it all, but
So-
you get it all out.
I'm
Uh,
good to it.
If there's any other questions, we've been right here at an
I mean,
hour.
the argument can be made that whatever claims were approved, whatever, once you look at the codes and all that stuff, whatever was approved, that's what they owe. And if we were able to negotiate it down ourselves lower than that, then that's their problem. That's,
And the thing to remember is, and I think Peggy knows this, there've been claims, like I say, filed and approved by Performance Health that were never paid. The answer was, these are they're in the process, been in the process since 2019.
I think they were approved by the underwriter, by the third-party administrator. I think they were approved, then when the time came time to write the checks,
They didn't write
there
checks.
was no money, the insurance company just wouldn't write the checks.
Gerber wouldn't pay.
That's it.
So somewhere down the line, we have information to a certain extent, and in my office, that this claim has been approved and will be paid and nothing ever happened.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Guys, I think we've accomplished exactly what we came here to try to accomplish, and I'd like to thank the county judge and the attorneys for the thought that they put into this and the process that they put together. I think it's an excellent procedure for us to move forward on. Again, I won't be here Monday, but finance committee meeting, regular monthly meeting will be at 1:30 here in this office, Monday afternoon, regular quorum court, I will be back for that the following Tuesday. And then we talked about, just for all you elected officials, we're gonna start the budget process, y'all need to be thinking. We'll want your expenditure budgets the first Monday in October. We'll start looking at anticipated revenues, the 13th of September. So with all that, without anything else, we'll call the meeting adjourned, and thank you very much.